All right, we've got a few more steps to go through to get our template where we want it to be. I do want to take just a moment to kind of walk back through what's happening in our application. We've got our app.js file here, and this is, when we said in our JSON package.json file, we said, okay, we're gonna start app.js. So this is where execution begins. We load the Express framework. We create a variable called app built from that, and then we tell this app object that our view engine is going to use is going to be EJS, and then we pull in some routes that we defined in this main.js in the routes folder. And so again, that's going to handle different things. The idea is that if you find a route that matches one of the routes in there, using this middleware concept, it's actually going to just stop and not pass on to the rest of the middleware. So this is where we actually apply it. So we load the routes and then we put the routes in the middleware here. What you can do is, if you have a bigger application where you have, you might want to categorize your routes, so you could say, well, in the Sayed app, for example, we might end up wanting to have authentication routes that handle login, logout, and register. We might want to have message routes that handle all the different actions we might do on a message and so on. So you might have multiple route files, and again, you would just pull in each route file and then apply those routes in some particular order. Whichever one contains a route that gets met first, that's the one that's going to fire, and then the rest are not going to happen. Just to illustrate this, I could say, okay, let's write to the console log. After main routes. And we'll save that. And let's come up here and refresh our page. Notice this after main routes didn't show up again. Let me refresh one more time. Again, not refreshing. It happened the first time because we had to get down to the line that said we're going to listen, but once we started listening, this code is not executing again. The reason is that every time I refresh the page, it's going to run through these middleware routes that we put in place in our main.js routes file. And so when it finds something that matches, it stops, which means we never actually get down here. If I come here and I say, okay, instead of doing the home page, let's do something else here. It says, oh, there is no ASDF, but what I want you to see is, oh, well, I thought I would get to see my after main routes because that didn't match anything. Not sure why that's not showing up. We'll come back to this here in a second. All right. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put a new route in here that will be our handling of file not found situation. So we're going to say app.use, and remember it requires a function, an anonymous function here, and I'm going to say response, set a status code of 404, that means not found, and then we're going to render, let's get an error page in place. So we're going to say render error page. Obviously for that to work, we're going to have to define an error page. You can see this didn't compile. Well, that didn't compile for the reason that I have two of the same thing. There's a request, response, next. Okay, there we go. Let's see if that did any better. Okay. But I do need to go ahead and define a view for error. I think what I'm going to do here is open this hello.ejs and save it as error.js, and this is still in the views. So we're going to save it under the name error.ejs. Save. Oops. it wanted to put an HTML on the end. Let me rename that. Let's take off the HTML extension. Okay. So there's my error.ejs. This is title error, and this is page not found. All right, that's our official error message that we're going to send. All right, let's refresh. Status code is not a function. And it looks like it's in the app.js file, so let's come back and see what's there. Oh, I guess it did an autocomplete for me. That wasn't correct. Res.status. Okay, that's better. Let's try this again. There's our page not found error. So by not matching the routes here, we came onto this piece of middleware, and we were able to generate our error page. So we'll put all of our routes up here, and we'll deal with the final. If nothing else matched, then we're going to say this is going to be our last resort right here, which is the not found page. A few more things we need to think about adding. One is let's modify our page, like one of our views, so that it uses some static CSS documents. This is going to be kind of important because obviously we're going to have some kind of static files that are going to provide styling and probably some client-side JavaScript and so on, and we want that to be plugged into our system. So real quick, what we do is we're going to create a folder called public. It's conventional in NodeJS that all static files go into a public folder. Inside of public, I'm going to click on public and then create another folder. We're going to have a folder called CSS. I'm going to click on public again, and another folder called JS, and so on. This is where we would put our assets that are static assets. So if we had images, we'd probably have an images folder and put that here under public. So under CSS, I'm just going to add a new file. We're going to call it main. Not JS. We need to call that .css. And I'm not going to do anything real fancy in this one. I'm just going to put a background and a foreground for the body. I think that should be enough to get us where we want to go with that. And I'm just going to go ahead and use some colors that I happen to like. Feel free to use whatever colors you want. You're certainly welcome to do these. We need to set a background color, and I'm going to do the EE8D5, and then I'm going to do a foreground color of 58. Oops, got to get the right number. 586E75. So that'll be the style we want to apply. Now obviously to get that to actually show up, we need to go to our hello.ejs file and put a link there. So here we go. I'm going to put a link tag. href equals css main.css, and we will say this is a style sheet. So that's my link. Alright, I'm ready to come back. Let's go back to our index page. Here's first page. Alright, you can see in the console log I'm getting an error that says main CSS not found. What we're going to have to do is we got to pull in some extra stuff that'll help Node.js know where to look for these static resources. The main reason is that Node.js is kind of running all of the routes and other stuff through our middleware, and so it doesn't understand where to find these static routes from the web page. So I think I'm going to just show you a command that I don't know. I'm not going to say a whole much about it because pretty much this is just like I wouldn't have come up with this on my own. I just saw this and saw that it worked, and so I was happy about it. I'll explain some of these pieces here. Let me get it typed in first and then we'll talk about it. So basically, we need to tell our Node.js app where the path of our static resources are. To do this, we're gonna have to import a special object called path, and so I'm just gonna do it up here. Const path. We're just gonna require path. This is one of the core modules, but we do have to import it if we're going to use this path object. And we're going to join together this. What I typed here is _ dir name. That's a special name that tells Node.js, or that Node.js stores the value of the full path to the location of my home directory. And then within that home directory, we need to go into the public directory. So we're going to join this directory with the public directory. That's the path for static resources in our document. Let's see how we did. Looks like down here, it looks like it's all loaded. Let's do a refresh. Okay, we just got some styling. So now we've got a background, we've got a foreground, and this actually looks like it's using our CSS document. Looks like a good place to take a break.